Victor Wembanyama had a lot to say in this final regular season press conference. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Friday. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope you're having a great Friday. The weekend's here, everybody. Yeah, we'll get you through your final workday right here on Locked On Spurs, your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. You guys are the everydayers. Keep on coming here every day. Yes, even during the offseason. I know it's going to be a long one, but we'll help you get through it right here on Locked On Spurs. As always, subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kens 5 Plus app, YouTube. You know where to go. Locked On Spurs newsletter. If you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description below. It literally says LO Spurs newsletter. Click on that link, sign up, completely free, or just go to lockedondaily.com. You see it on your screen right there. It's right down there. Go to that website and sign up ASAP. Hey, today's episode was brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So what are we talking about today? Takeaways from Wemby's final pregame in this case, conference. Yes, Wemby made a surprise chat ahead of the final game of the regular season versus Toronto. He had a lot to say, but we're going to kind of sift through it and pick a couple things that really stood out. Obviously, you know, his health update. We're probably going to start off with that. What does that mean for his summer? Yeah, Team France. So we're going to talk about that. And then just his thoughts overall on the team, Steph Castle, the team without him. Yeah, he had a lot to say. So we're going to get into that and more. Let's go and bring in our guest. He is back, everybody. He is Mr. Hector Ledesma. He's so busy, I had to write down everything that he does. So here's what we got. We got Clutch Points. You can find his work there at Clutch Points. Where else can you see him? Oh, yeah, he works with Spurs Sports Entertainment on the TV side of things with SAFC, the Spurs, Austin Spurs. We're not even done yet. And his brand new baby that's on YouTube right now, it is called The Sports Update on YouTube. Hector, welcome back. And how do you have time for all this, buddy?
What's up, Jefferson? How are you? Doing all right?
Moving on up.
Oh, you're already on top, so I don't know how
Hey,
you
well.
from there. It's good, bro. It's good. Thank you. Yeah, it's busy, but that's better than the alternative, right? Especially in a town like San Antonio, where we don't have the benefit of sports actually in town year round, right?
Yeah.
When the summer comes, it kind of dries up a little bit. So, yeah, good to be running around.
Yeah, exactly. Again, his new show is on YouTube. Again, it's called The Sports Update. You're on YouTube right now, so just use that little search bar up there. Just type in The Sports Update and then go subscribe to it right now. Hector will talk to you about that and a lot more later on this episode of Locked On Spurs. But Hector, again, it's been a while. I'm glad you're back, but we got a lot to talk about, mainly Victor Wembanyama. Now, he kind of surprised everybody ahead of the final game versus Toronto when he spoke with media. Unfortunately, I could not make it. Hector, you were there. You had a lot of interesting interactions and questions with him. We'll get to that in a bit. But the big standout is he gave everybody an update on his health. Now, if y'all living under a rock, basically he has blood clots in his shoulder. All right, so that's what shelved him for the season. He was on blood thinners, and then a report came out in France that he underwent surgery, and Victor all but confirmed it. You know what, Hector? Let's hear from Victor Wembanyama. Let's hear what he had to say, and then let's talk about it. So let's see what the big man from France had to say. Here we go.
Basketball work, but it's all very controlled and light. And even though sometimes I feel like I would like to do more, it's logical, medical direction. So I trust the process and I trust the medical staff.
Well, there you have it. Victor Wembanyama gave a quick update. Basically, everything's going smoothly. Hector, first of all, I'm glad he's doing well. I'm glad he did the surgery. He seems to be in good spirits. But you look at this injury. Do you think this is something for you to be concerned about, fans to be concerned about moving forward in his career?
No, I think he'll be fine. I think all indication, he was asked a question in terms of deeper meaning. Is there anything that had to change in terms of outside of basketball, life realities, whether that's life expectancy, if it kind of even went that far, in terms of the illusion of the question, or day to day. And Wemby adamantly said no, none of that. And so I think he's going to be fine. He was very general about his time frame, right? He said, "I'm neither ahead of schedule nor am I behind schedule." So essentially, he's on time. And he didn't actually give a timeline. Neither did Mitch Johnson. It was De'Aaron Fox who kind of said, Wemby and I are on the same timeline. So that gave you a sense. And Fox said he's about 8 weeks away, roughly. And this would have been last week now, right? This would have been Sunday. So shorten that by a week, essentially, from being back and essentially being cleared to do all basketball-related activities. So that's where they are now. For as much as he's doing basketball work, is how Wemby labeled it, he's no contact. He's not taking part in anything that's rigorous at this point. And funny enough, Jeff, if any of you fans happen to catch at the end of the game against the Raptors to end the season, the players out there having some fun, fan appreciation, just launching shirts and throwing shirts. Wemby never threw a shirt with his right arm.
Sure.
He had the shirt launcher. I saw him throw. I had him throw a couple with his. I saw him, I should say, throw a couple with his left arm, but he's not even really, and it's good, right? It's if you see him, kind of straining that arm to try to get something into the upper deck, you're like, no, what are you doing? So that in and of itself isn't a tell. It's natural, but it just goes to the whole. He's not really doing anything strenuous just yet.
Yeah, that's a keen eye there. I was at the game too. I didn't even pick up on that. But, I look at the surgery, again, he all but confirmed it. He didn't outright say it, but he's pretty much said it. But the blood clots cleared. He's going to be on light contact, which leads us to the big question now regarding his health is Team France. Now, for those who don't know, during the summer, there's a lot of mini competitions, tournaments, qualifying events for the Olympic Games. France has to do that, and they're going to play this summer. French coach thinks that, he wants Wemby to play, no doubt about it. I get it. I want to qualify, punch their ticket for the Olympics. But it felt like in the conference call or chat, Hector, that Wemby all but kind of leaning towards not playing. Good, I think good on him, good for the Spurs, obviously. But at the same side, Hector, don't you think he shouldn't play because he's been away from the game for a while?
No, I think it's music to Spurs ears and Spurs front office staff to their ears that he not play. He'll be fine in terms of getting the rust off. There's plenty of time for that. But what you're concerned more about right now is if you want to follow him every step of the way on his way back. And when he's with Team France, you won't be able to if you're the Spurs. So while the Spurs aren't going to flat out tell him you better not play in France, they're going to breathe a big sigh of relief if he decides not to go that way, which, as you mentioned, is the way in which it sounds like he's leaning. If you kind of read between the tea leaves, kind of it's a little too early to think about it. He's not quite sure where he'll be, all of those types of things. I think he's trying to create a soft landing for when he doesn't play. And you got to remember the French fans' perspective is going to be much different.
Oh yeah.
Spurs fans' perspective, so they're not going to like it. I think they'll understand. No grudge or anything like that, by no means. I don't think. But there's going to be an oh man aspect. So he's going to get it from either side, no matter what he does. This is one of those, just like Tony back in the day and Manu back in the day. You get it from somebody no matter what you decide to do. Yeah, but I think Vic realizes that his best bet in terms of his NBA career is to not, because at the end of the day, Jeff, it's not the Olympics, like it's Eurobasket. No. Yeah. So if it was the Olympics, we might be talking about a different story. If it was the World Championships, we might be talking about a different story. But I think when you put everything together, I don't want to go out on a limb, and I'm not comfortable making a prediction, but I'll just say that he's leaning toward. It's very much sounded. It sounded like he's leaning toward not playing.
Yeah, and you mentioned the sigh of relief. Yeah, I think that's exactly what the fan base, management, coaching staff, teammates are probably thinking too. If he decides not to play, and France should be okay. I mean, that's a powerhouse team in the world global stage of basketball, so they should be okay even without him. But nevertheless, I think he's putting his priorities, in order. First of all, even if there was not even a kind of a Eurobasket or tournament this summer, even if he just rested the whole season or off season, I'm good with that because he's been in a whirlwind since pre-draft of last year. Really hasn't stopped playing from the Olympics to the Paris games to the regular season, rookie season, preseason, on and on and on. This is the first extended break he's had in quite some time. So he's definitely going to take advantage of that. He should take advantage of that. But if he plays for Team France, man, if you were to ask me about, I'd be surprised. I kind of wouldn't be, because of how much representing your country is for international players. Manu, you had to pry him away from playing from Team Argentina during his play. It took a lot for him not to play. Same thing for Tony Parker. But ultimately, I don't think he's going to play, and I think that obviously is a great, great thing for the Spurs. So, there's Victor right there giving an update on his health issues. Seems like everything's doing okay. But we're not done, though. Victor had a lot more to say. As a matter of fact, Hector had a nice chat with him during that conference. What does he feel about the team without him? What about Castle? The list goes on and on. Let's talk about that with Hector Ledesma. Make sure to follow him on X at what's your X handle again?
At Hector Ledesma TV.
There you go. Yeah. By the way, you got rid of that other one, right? The one that everybody got confused with. Remember you had two for a while?
Well, it's interesting. I haven't figured out a way. I'm awful on social media to begin with, but this seems like hard. I haven't found a way to just flat out delete it. I got locked out of it way back when, and I don't have to get back into to get rid of it.
Exactly. But see, you're okay, because if you still want to connect with Hector, you got 3 ways to do it. One, you got Clutch Points. He'll talk about that later. You got his new show. We'll talk about that later as well, called the Sports Update on YouTube. And if you want to just see him, he's helping out the Spurs, Sports and Entertainment, with Austin Spurs, as San Antonio FC and the Spurs themselves on FanDuel. We'll talk about that and a lot more right here with Hector Ledesma. And that's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. But first, I want to talk to you about Upwork.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Find the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. Fast and easy hiring. Post a job is free and simple. And within a day, you get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. You get cost-effective growth instead of hiring full-time. Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Hector Ledesma, the man who probably invented an extra hour in his day for all the things that he does in his life. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. He has a lot going on. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Why is Hector here? We're talking about Victor Wembanyama's final conference chat with the media before the regular season ended. He had a lot to say. The biggest thing that we talked about in the first segment was the update on his health. Seems like everything's doing well and likely not going to play for Team France. But Hector had a great interaction with him. He had a lot to say with you, Hector, regarding even Steph Castle, the state of the Spurs without him, and so much more. But I think what stood out for me is, as you mentioned to me pre-recording here, is that he liked what the team looked like without him. What did he have to say to you?
Yeah, so I was just curious on his thoughts, because it was obviously a disappointing end to the season, right? We know that. But what he was able to accomplish, did he meet the expectation that he had set for himself going into a season that came off of a historic Rookie of the Year?
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of talked about it. It was interesting to me. He kind of talked about the year in phases. It was almost a timeline of events. He started with, his own injury and how that doomed his season. Talked about Pop and how it took a while to get adjusted to life without Pop. He then reminisced about how cool it was to be in New York for Christmas. Remember, they not only played the Knicks on Christmas Day, but then they played the Nets like a couple of days later. So They were in New York City for like a week during Christmas time. He obviously brought up the games in Paris, how cool that was. He talked about being in LA for the wildfires. Remember that, Jeff? They were actually playing the Lakers tonight, and they were supposed to play the Lakers back to back. They were only able to get the one game in because of the postponement. The irony is that the postponement ended up becoming the trip later on where De'Aaron Fox had his season-ending injury. But in real time, they played the game against the Lakers, but they were there for a good amount of days because of everything going on and trying to stay safe. And then he talked about the guys without him, and he said, I was excited to see the guys play without me, how well they played. He goes, and I was a bit jealous to a certain extent, that I was able to see them perform like this without me. Jealous in the sense of I wasn't able to be a part of it. And then he kind of wrapped up by giving Steph Castle all his due and saying it was funny because this was before, as you mentioned, that final regular season game against the Raptors. He goes, if Steph has another great performance today, he'll lock up the Rookie of the Year. Now, a lot of us would say that Steph locked it up about a month ago or whatever, half a month ago. But to Vic's point, it was Steph's to lose. The award is Steph Castle's to lose. And he very much recognized that. And you could see, Jeff, even beyond that, even beyond what Steph did this year and Steph winning the award, giving the Spurs the second straight Rookie of the Year, you could see the way he talked about Steph. There's like a light with Wemby, knowing that I've not only got De'Aaron, I've now got Steph as well. And so I really do think, when they start next year, I don't anticipate they're not going to do anything. And I know that's a discussion for way down the line in the summer when we're getting into the dog days of the summer. But I don't think they're going to stand pat. But as it is right now, with De'Aaron and with Castle flanking him, there's a reason for a lot of optimism if you're Vic. I think that came through when he talked about Stephon Castle.
Yeah, and I don't blame him one bit to be optimistic. It's not just him. It was Keldon Johnson. It was the players there. Very optimistic for next season. But as far as Wemby is concerned, when I saw him light up about having a running mate like Castle, I mean, that's just great. The team drafted smart. I mean, they've been scouting Castle since his high school days. That's how long, ahead of the game the Spurs were. But to see his impact, Castle's, on the floor, it's got to make Wemby smile, as he said to you. Also, the fact that, De'Aaron Fox, we didn't get, or Wemby didn't even get, Fox didn't get, more than 5 games together. But in that 5-game sample size, you could see a potent 1-2 punch. Hector, I was thinking about this the other day. Pre-Fox, before, Castle, what was the big thing? Oh, does Wemby have a running mate? Is it going to be Vassell? Is it somebody else? Do they got to go get somebody? All right, so they make the trade for De'Aaron Fox, and you're like, there it is. There's your running mate with Wemby. And then you got Castle just comes on the scene. Strong March, strong into the season, likely going to be the Rookie of the Year. The Spurs got like 2 for 1 now. They've been looking for 1 running mate. They got 2 now, Hector.
Well, and you know what the interesting thing about this, Jeff, is it similar to Wemby last year in this regard. When we watched Vic last year, we would always say, boy, if he develops a go-to move, right? Or when he gets comfortable in the post, it's game over, right? Like you eventually down the line, my, oh my, what this guy's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Steph Castle this year, he did everything he did without being a good shooter. Like, let's be honest. Steph right now is not a good NBA shooter. And he'll admit that. He'll talk about the things that he needs to work on. He needs to be more efficient. He always talks about being more efficient with his game. But part of that is shooting the ball better. Can you imagine, Jeff, when Steph develops a jumper, something he can be reliable with? I mean, with with what he can already do, and we're just talking about his offense right now. Talking about his defensive strengths as well, and how physical and good and just athletic he is as well. And so that was my follow-up to Vic, was with Castle and with Fox in the mix. Are you excited about what you guys could be next year? And what he did was he turned it into he kind of made it an introspective question.
Yeah.
He said, "I'll be ready," as if to say, we know what De'Aaron is. He's a star in this league. We know what Castle's becoming, but I'm going to be ready. And that's Vic being Vic. Like, everything is so it matters to him. Everything is so, for lack of a better term, it's so, the progression, his game. And so, he took the opportunity to say, "I'll be ready. I'm gonna be there," which I think is very refreshing for a lot of Spurs fans.
Yeah. You talk about a go-to move. Hakeem Olajuwon is okay training him. I'm just saying, Vic. I'm just saying, you want to learn the dream shake, from the master himself, go for it. For those of y'all who missed it, Dream, Olajuwon, and Vic met up at the NC Final Four in San Antonio, and Hakeem followed that up by talking about what they talked about, and that Dream had told Wemby, "You don't need my help. You got everything," but Wemby was so insistent. He's like, "No, I want you to help me." So sorry, Rockets fans. Sorry about that, Rockets fan. If he does take up an invite, but yeah, he gets.
So I'm sorry, Jeff. Speaking of, when I walked past Vic at the Dome at the Final Four, it was loud. I couldn't really stop and chat with him, and he's surrounded by everybody. But I just simply went, "Hey, Vic," and he goes, "Oh man, he's like kind of doing the." Yeah, so he's all indications. Taking it back, that all indications are he's pleased with where he is in progress.
Yeah, and again, the rest of the conference was just kind of filler talk and everything, but those are really the big standouts out. He's impressed with the team, without him. And think about it too. For a while they didn't have Wemby, and they were okay because he had Fox. But then you lose Fox, and despite everything, they didn't play that bad. Sure, they got trounced by the Warriors in San Antonio, but for the most part, they were able to survive, without Vic and Fox for the most part. So the sky's the limit next season. I still contend, Hector, that if they had stayed intact, or even let's just say Fox had that surgery on his finger, then Wemby at least stayed to the bitter end, I think, man, first of all, they would have busted Vegas's prediction, because Vegas had them winning at least 35, 36 games for last season. I think they would have broken through that. I think they may have been in the play-in. What do you think? If they had stayed 100% healthy, are they in the play-in right now as we speak?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think they would have been able to play in. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, and because you mentioned the very small sample size with Vic and Wemby. Yeah. Just look at it this way. Yeah, Vic and Fox. Did I say Vic and Wemby? Vic and Fox.
What's back to Wemby?
I know, right? They had 5 games together. In those 5 games, they won 2 of them. They lost 2, both by a single point, and then the other game was a loss at the defending champion Boston Celtics, which almost no one goes in there and wins. So that was your short sample size. I think they were going to be good enough already in the short term to certainly qualify for the play-in, if not make the play-in. So I think it's safe to say they would have been, if they didn't make the play-in, they would have been in the hunt until the last week.
Yeah. It would have been those scenarios that you get at the end of the season. Like if Denver beats this and then San Antonio wins, then they're in. It would have been one of those things. But yes, the light at the end of the tunnel is bright right now. Is the rebuild over? No, not yet. But boy, are the Spurs getting close to it. He is Hector Ledesma. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. He is with Spurs Sports and Entertainment, helping him out on the FanDuel side of things when it comes to sport. It's Austin Spurs, SAFC, and the Spurs occasionally. He's also with the Sports Update on YouTube. He'll talk about that momentarily. And, of course, he writes for Clutch Points. He does a lot. And I thought I was busy. No. Hector, I'm right here. Hector's like up here when it comes to, getting things done. All right, when we get back, Coach Bud, should the Spurs consider bringing him back, the whole coaching situation in San Antonio? We're going to talk about that with Hector Ledesma coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. But first, I want to talk to you about Monarch Money.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining online, shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Money Monarch isn't just a budget app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing all your money and you start building wealth. Look, you get surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Easy collaboration, managing money with your partner smoother than ever. You can track shared or personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress, all in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. Right now, you want to take control of your finances with Money Monarch. Use code LOCKEDNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDNBA for half off your first year.
This is Emilio Rivera, the Padrino for the Mayans MC. You are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Hector Ledesma. We brought him back to round out this week right here on Locked On Spurs. And Hector, kind of one of the big storylines right now heading into the offseason, or maybe even started in the regular season, is the coaching spot in San Antonio. After Popovich went out for the season due to a mild stroke, the Spurs threw in interim head coach Mitch Johnson. He did what he could for the rest of the season. In my opinion, I think he did a pretty good job, all things considered. But if Popovich decides to hang it up and say, you know what, I'm good, it was a good run, that leaves a vacant head coaching spot. Now, there's a good handful of qualified coaches, Hector, that are out there, from Mike Brown to Taylor Jenkins to Mike Malone, and now Coach Bud. Yeah, Coach Bud, after his time in Phoenix is over, he is available. Hector, should the Spurs, if they're going to have a change in head coaching spot, put the former assistant coach on their short list, or maybe not?
Yeah, I think you put him on the short list.
Yeah.
But that's not the same as he's definitely the guy.
Okay.
Right? Those are two different things. But I think, the guy won an NBA title,
Sure. Yeah.
And that's after all the good work that he did with the Hawks, and you can say what you want about the Hawks' eventual playoff failures and this and that, but you look back at what he did, and he's been successful just about anywhere he's been. I know this year rough, but yeah, right. I have a feeling what's going on in Phoenix, and I don't think I'm breaking news to anybody, or I don't think this is like a solo opinion. I think what's going on in Phoenix goes beyond, Bud and what a head coach can do.
Agree.
A very toxic situation is what it seems like, kind of speaking from afar. So I don't know how much you can put that on Coach Bud. But yeah, I mean, when you look at those credentials plus someone who is very much a part of the Spurs culture, the Spurs way, I think you definitely consider him, and I would go so far as to say yes, he's on the short list. But as you mentioned, Jeff, if you're going to make a head coach, if they're going to go through the transition this summer, given the names available, this is the summer to do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I do have him on my list for possible replacement head coaches, but I don't know if he's at the top of that list. And for me, Coach Bud, you mentioned the Spurs culture. He has that 10 times. I think he was the original heir apparent. Remember years ago, it's Mike Budenholzer. He's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy. Well, it would be,
right.
chemistry if he does come circle all the way back to San Antonio at this new era in Spurs franchise history. But nevertheless, I don't have him on top of my list. He has a reputation for being kind of a tough, hard-nosed kind of head coach. And in today's modern NBA with these young players, I don't know. I don't know. You saw Mitch Johnson. He's about their age, more or less, really connected with the team. But, we'll find out if he has the chops to continue doing that. The Spurs want to keep him there. Here's a question I got for you, Hector. With so many quality head coaches available right now, is Mitch Johnson getting pushed further down that short list?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the short answer.
Okay.
And honestly, Jeff, it's logical, and it's no disrespect to Mitch Johnson.
Right.
But you look at the resumes of Mike Malone, Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah.
You look at what Bud has done. And I'm missing somebody, right?
Mike Brown from the Sacramento.
You look at and Mike Brown has that history with De'Aaron. Yep. Now De'Aaron, there was that kind of, remember at the end before Mike Brown and everybody thought, there's the rift, and that, like, ironically, De'Aaron came out and said afterwards, he was like, no, them getting rid of Mike Brown is what it was. Yeah, so it was the total. It just goes to show how you don't know. Mm-hmm. And a lot of things will be said, and you just gotta be careful with narratives, right? Because Darren came out and said, when they got rid of Mike Brown, and I had told the Kings, I do not want to play for yet another coach, and when they did that, that's it. That's when I said, I've got to get out of here. And if you're De'Aaron, why would you lie about that? Because, like, that doesn't put that in terms of being a good soldier and a good teammate and all that stuff, it doesn't necessarily put you in a great light, right? Like, nobody wants to be, or most people don't want to be the guy who, quote unquote, holds the team hostage and demands a trade or whatever. He had no problem saying, when they did that, I felt like I had to do what I had to do because I had told them I wanted stability. And they couldn't even give me that. They couldn't even give me stability with letting Mike Brown finish out the year and seeing what we could do. We're only a year, a couple years removed from the playoffs, and that great series with the Warriors made the play in the next year. Like, we still have a shot here. This is a young team. And the fact that they let Mike Brown go, despite what De'Aaron says he wanted, those two have a relationship. So, not to mention the favorites that always come up, right? Like, is Steve Kerr kind of like,
there's that.
Just change the scenery might be good. I've always been a fan of Jay Wright, who seemingly is kind of one of those coaches who's retired but he's really not.
Retired, and think about it too. There's other names out there that wouldn't surprise me, but are not getting a lot of attention right now. Like, what if a Jeff Van Gundy wants to come back? He did wonders with Boston as a consultant. Celtics even tipped their cap to him, and they said he was one of the biggest reasons why they won a title. Look what he's doing right now with the Clippers, since the coach of Ty Lue. There's other guys, Sam Cassell, he's paid his dues. So there's just the point is, everybody, what we're trying to get at is you can add another name to the pile of coaching names should the Spurs decide to go, well, if Pop decides to call it a career and move on. But I don't know anything, Hector, but whether Pop is coming back or calling it a day, my gut instinct tells me the Spurs already know. They know where he's leaning towards. They got to know. I mean, with all these names out there, don't you think he would, if it's putting the franchise at first, don't you think he would let them know what's going on?
I think they have a sense, Jeff. I think they have a sense of what's in store, and I think they have a plan as well. Either way, but really more specifically, if he doesn't come back. But I think they also have a plan for if he does come back and kind of the safeguards, because he's not, he's a 75-year-old man who just suffered a stroke. So, science and biology just simply tells you he's not going to be the exact same person. So either way, I think they've got a sense of what they're in for, and either way they're preparing.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see what the Spurs do this offseason, if anything, with the head coaching spot. Is it still going to be Mitch? Will they bring back Coach Bud? We'd like to hear from you. You can let Hector know on X at Hector Ledesma TV. You can let me know by going to Locked On Spurs YouTube page, leaving a comment. We'll read it in a future episode of Locked On Spurs. But we cannot let Hector go without him bragging about his new YouTube show called The Sports Update. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's a show we're going to do weekly, Jeff. It's going to cover a greater San Antonio. As a matter of fact, our show this week was a big Spurs in review show. It was basically all Spurs all the time. From what we talked about on this podcast, Wemby and his season and the reaction to it, to Pop's future, to Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Where's he leaning? Had a conversation, had a kind of back and forth with him about that as well. Also, De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron said something pretty interesting. He thinks that a full offseason under their belt is going to make him and Wemby possibly the best pick and roll combo in the league. And we also just kind of talked about the season as a whole. Now, we'll do it, and then going forward, we'll kind of talk about, okay, now what? You know, what's ahead? What's in store for these Spurs as they enter free agency? You know, got the draft coming up in a couple of months. We'll see where they land in the lottery, next month. But all of that more on this week's show. But yeah, just when you go on YouTube, search the Sports Update, and if it helps any, the Sports Update and Hector Ledesma. Okay. Maybe Google, you search those two together on YouTube. It's called The Sports Update, but I realize that there's a lot of different things that go under that.
Right.
And then we're on Twitter at Sports Update. Let me see the actual. I couldn't use the Twitter handle that I wanted to use because it was taken. So it's called The Sports Update. Okay. But the actual handle itself is at Sports Update _SA.
There you go.
It's update _SA. And then on Facebook, it's The Sports Update. And you can see it, just big, bold letters, The Sports Update. And it's sponsored by Martinez and Associates. So if you see a Sports Update with a Martinez and Associates logo alongside it or within it, that's us. That's the show.
Look at that. Hector, his grind never stops, everybody. It doesn't stop. And you know why? Why do I say that? Well, because you can also catch him on Clutch Points, where he does his articles about the San Antonio Spurs, as well as he's a contributor for San Antonio Spurs and entertainment, Spurs and Sports Entertainment. When it comes to the Austin Spurs, the San Antonio Spurs, Austin FC, he helps there and contributes on the FanDuel side. So yeah, he is a busy man. Maybe that should have been your Twitter handle, right? Or X handle, I should say, the busy man.
Yeah, and if I can, Jeff, also, one of the things that I'm also able to do and lucky enough to do is also kind of provide some updates on Project Marvel and everything that's going on there. Like, so for example, a UTSA poll came out the other day that shows that only 34% of likely voters polled support Project Marvel right now, whereas 41% oppose. Yeah. And that 34% who approve is down from 2 months ago when UTSA took a similar poll. So updates like that and what's going on with the development and the progression of Project Marvel before it comes to a vote. Stories like that are also available on my Twitter handle and my Facebook pages at Hector Ledesma TV, Twitter, and then for Facebook, just search Hector Ledesma in my work page or professional page, whatever they call it. That'll pop up as well.
He is a busy man, but you can catch up in all things that Hector has going again by going to his Twitter page, or X page, I should say, at Hector Ledesma TV. For sure, you can find all the links there. But don't forget the Sports Update. It's on YouTube. Go to it right now. Subscribe. But do it after you're done with Locked On Spurs, okay? So once you're done here, then you go to the Sports Update. Search for it on the search bar there. Go sign up right now. Subscribe. Hector, as always, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, very packed schedule, to join us here on Locked On Spurs. There's good news and bad news. The bad news is the offseason. Spurs are on the postseason. Maybe next year. But maybe the good news is that I'm not going to leave you alone during the offseason, or maybe that's bad news. It's bad news. But Hector, can you come back? Hector, can you come back? So, I don't know. Maybe it's double bad news. But either way, Hector, you have an open invite here at Locked On Spurs. You come on here anytime you want. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever we get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kensify Plus app, YouTube. You guys are the everydayers. Check out Locked On Spurs newsletter in the description below. Just click on that. See that YouTube link there? Just go down there. Then you see Locked On Spurs newsletter. Click on that link. Go sign up today, or just go to LockedOnDaily.com. We'll be back on Monday to talk all things silver and black, as the offseason is just beginning. So for Hector Ledesma, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.
Spurs.